Hi guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with actually a brand new series on the top bans for patch 2.4b. Now obviously this is the first video of the series. It's a series I wanted to do for a long time now, ever since the bans came out. But I thought I'd give it some time to sort of settle down, for there to be a meta for pick and bans, so-called, to see what people like to pick and ban and who I think are good picks and good bans as well. So this is going to be, of course, the start of the series. So I'm going to talk a little bit more for this particular video, and in future probably we'll cover a bit less, because I do expect that majority of picks will actually be overlapping from patch to patch, unless there are huge changes across the patch, of course. So now, the way I've thought of doing this is, in the background, I'm gonna have just a gameplay video. This gameplay in particular is a ranked game. As you guys can see, I'm playing Kaisa, and our team has had a big problem where the Ashe was actually assigned jungle, but she decided to pick Ashe, and she was also lagging the entire game. So at the start of the game, we all went to our own lanes that we were assigned to, and Ashe had nowhere to go because she was meant to go to the jungle. So she ends up going top and messes with the Akshan's lane. But anyways, that's not the point. It's just some gameplay in the background for you guys to enjoy as we discuss the top bans of the patch. So now the way I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna do two bans per role, but because there's way too much to discuss, I'm actually going to include an honorable mentions at the start, which is of course right now. So first up for the honorable mentions is Master Yi. Now Master Yi has gotten nerfed this current patch, and he's no longer like completely OP or like S plus tier anymore. However, if you're in low elo, he is still a very big threat and still a very good ban. Now, even before he got buffed, I do believe that Master Yi is a good ban in low elo, because most junglers do not know how to play against him. So if you're playing a role that is not jungle, for example, you're the ADC, there's literally nothing you can really do to stop the Master Yi in the early game. What you need is for your jungler to go invade the Master Yi, to go disturb the Master Yi as he's farming, because he's very weak at the low levels. But if you are playing a role that's not jungle, you can't force your teammates to do that. So Master Yi gets a free early game, which transitions him to like a 2 item power spike, and then he starts steamrolling the game and 1v9 hard carrying. So he is still a really good ban. Now, there are a lot of bannable champions in the mid lane. I would say that mid lane has the most amount of bans, but two honorable mentions from the mid lane is Zed and Fizz. So now these two champions are actually very similar in a sense that they are sort of like a one-shot machine, which is generally their target, their damage is single target focus. Like Zed has to death mark a single target, and Fizz has to ult a single target, where the main damage goes on the main target. So of course they both do have AoE, like Fizz's Playful Trickster and Zed's shurikens can hit multiple targets, but by and large their entire goal of the game is to just one-shot a single enemy target. So the reason why I think that they're honorable mentions and not like main bans is, I feel that firstly, number one, they're single target, so the biggest impact that they can have is to assassinate one member. Now of course we do not make light of this, because if you're hard carrying as, for example, the mid laner, and you get demolished by a Zed or a Fizz, your team probably is going to lose the team fight, and it could lead to losing a Baron, losing the game, or so on and so forth. So they are still good bans, but they are only single target. They can't have a super duper huge impact in team fights, for example, and they're better in like skirmishes or just assassinating someone who's out of position and making picks in general. And also, the both of them can be countered by the stopwatch, of course. So that is another thing to take note of. So they have a little bit more counterplay than the other picks I will cover. Now the last honorable mention is yet another mid lane champion, which is Ziggs. Now Ziggs, I feel that is very underrated in the meta at the moment. I am seeing him getting picked way more, at least compared to what it was previously, but I do believe he is the best mid laner now. Now Ziggs, he has everything. He has poke, he has scaling, so his early game is not even the best, but even just playing the poke game, you can get through your lane rather easily, and after that he scales very very well into the mid and late stages of the game. Other than that, he has amazing turret taking potential with his passive, as well as his W as well. He has amazing AoE in teamfights with his E, with his bomb on his Q, and also his Super Mega Inferno Bomb on his ultimate. Does a huge amount of damage, can like do more than half health of like a non-tank champion instantly in a team fight. and you know can just destroy the enemy team if they all clump up in a team fight. And that ultimate can also be used for objective control, because in the like late stages of the game, his bomb in the center outdamages a smite, so the enemy team cannot even do a Baron or a Dragon if your ultimate is up and if they respect your ultimate, because if you have any form of vision onto the objective, you are gonna be able to steal it from them from like 2 screens away because of the large range and large damage you know, of your ultimate. So not Ziggs really has a lot of tools, and I do believe he is the best mid laner at the moment, as well as the Luden's buff in the latest patch makes him all the more better. So I think Ziggs is pretty good of a ban as well. But now we're going to move on into the main meat of the video, which is my top 10 bans, 2 per role. Now, I will say that I am categorizing people in a specific role, but they can also be picked in other roles. For example, I'm going to be talking about Akali in the mid lane later on, but she can also be played in the Baron lane. So yeah. So first up, my first pick for the Baron lane is Gragas. Now Gragas, honestly, he has just been nerfed. However, he is very versatile. He can go for a tank build, he can go for an AP build, or he can go for a hybrid build. So he really fits into whatever role your team needs. You need a tank, just go tank. You need some AP damage, just go for AP. And if you need, you know, a hybrid, like a bruiser kind of build, you can go just for the hybrid build. So you can really go for all of these builds. And, you know, as we have mentioned a lot of times before in our tier list videos, he has very good team fight, with his E being able to stun multiple targets, his Q being able to slow and damage multiple targets as well. He can tank with his W, and his ult can be used to engage, to disengage, to find picks. He can really do so much for your team. So Gragas really is just a very good pick at the moment, and he can't even be flexed into mid and jungle, although top is his best role. So Gragas is a very good you know, ban for top. Now, another very good ban for top is Fiora. Now, we have known that for months on end, Fiora has been the queen of the Baron lane, and the 40 health nerf, in my personal opinion, has done very little to stop that. Some people have actually said it has an impact. I do believe it does have an impact, but I don't think the impact is all that much, because if you're a good Fiora, you will stomp the enemy laner anyways. Now, she also can be flexed into the jungle, but that's very niche, because pretty much Fiora jungles are sort of like Fiora Baron lanes who sort of didn't get their Baron lane role and they got put in the jungle, so they sort of play Fiora in the jungle. But yeah, so the reason you want to ban Fiora is not because of like her split push or anything, but because just purely her 1v1 potential, and you know how a skilled Fiora player can dismantle an enemy team. Now, if you are fighting into a good Fiora player, pretty much you will lose every single time in a 1v1 scenario, or even in a 2v2 scenario, because the Fiora with the skills to pay the bills will just, you know, destroy you in a 1v1. She's the best 1v1 champion in the game, and pretty much no one can really rival Fiora's 1v1. So pretty much, you know, laning into a Fiora is like, just, I wouldn't say it's a lost lane, but I would say it's a very difficult lane from the very beginning of the match, which of course you don't want to put yourself at a disadvantage, so why not just ban Fiora? So next up we have the jungle. Now for the jungle, I think this isn't really very surprising here, but I have Kha'Zix as my first pick. Now Kha'Zix is really good at snowballing the game and getting early pressure. Now the reason for this is he pretty much thrives on the chaos of solo queue, because Kha'Zix honestly can be very easily countered just by having some team coordination, which is why he is horrible in competitive. So basically, the counter to Kha'Zix is to stand near your teammates, or to stand near your minions, or so that you're not isolated, so he can get off his increased isolation damage. But in solo queue, you know, even when your bot lane is together, they see a Kha'Zix and they don't stand together. They either split up or they are just too far apart. And Kha'Zix gets isolated targets for both of them, and he gets like a double kill. He starts snowballing the game, and he just takes over. Even in team fights, for a good Kha'Zix player, he knows how to play team fights. He's not going to be jumping in. He's going to be waiting, biding his time for like the team fights to progress. And when everybody's like at half health or lower and they're all split up, you know, just running, escaping, or you know, even over chasing, he can just slowly pick them off one by one, get his E resets, and you know, just get a lot of kills. So Kha'Zix just really dominant in solo queue and competitive, so he just needs to be banned. And the other ban I have is Lee Sin. Now Lee Sin, I've also seen a lot of people picking Lee Sin up lately, and Lee Sin is just a really good pick if you're good at him, of course. And a good Lee Sin can just change the game completely. Now really, I believe personally, if you're playing into a good Lee Sin, there's literally nothing you can do. He's the best early game jungler, and if you're playing a role like me, ADC, if you fight a good Lee Sin, it doesn't really matter. He's gonna be able to dive. He's gonna be able to kick you out of your tower. He's gonna be able to team up with his team and just destroy you because he has so much early game damage, so much early game pressure, really fast jungle clear, and no one can really rival Lee Sin's early game in the jungle. So he is just pretty much gonna destroy you. Just destroy all the other roles, even maybe the other enemy jungler. The only people he can destroy is people who are very, very tanky from the start. Let's say he may not really have a very good time against a Mundo who has a lot of health and defenses from the start, but he's gonna wreck pretty much anybody else. And if a Lee Sin is good, even into the later stages of the game, which if the Lee Sin is that good, it shouldn't even get to later stages of the game, because by the mid game, his team should be winning so hard that the enemy team wants to surrender or has no chance of coming back into the game. But even a good Lee Sin in the late game will find picks with his kicks and everything else, so Lee Sin just a must ban. Now for the mid, we have Akali. Now we all know Akali is an assassin who can 1v5 a fight despite being an assassin. She's not single target, she's an AoE assassin who does way too much damage. The latest nerfs have of course hurt her, however it hasn't hurt her to the point where she's unplayable or she's even bad. I believe she's still like S+ tier in the mid lane, so I do believe that Akali is a must ban. I personally ban Akali myself every match. Of course I play ADC, so I just want to ban Akali every match. I'm not gonna ban any other enemy ADC. So Akali, just way too much damage, you know, just 1v9s a game if you are good, must ban. And for the other pick in mid, I actually have Katarina. Now Katarina, honestly, ever since the bunch of nerfs that she got, she's picked a lot less, but you never want to run into a match where the enemy team's mid laner is like a Katarina one trick or a Katarina main, and you know how it goes, she can lose the lane, but she just roams bot, roams top, gets a kill or gets a double kill, gets the snowball rolling and just takes over a match. And when she gets the snowball rolling, she's gonna pretty much one combo anybody unless you're like a tank. Like playing as an ADC, I have had times where Katarina loses lane, she goes like top, gets like a double kill on the enemy top laner in jungle, she comes down to bot, she just throws a dagger, E's onto me, gets her double dagger spin with her Q and her E, and I instantly one combo, like instantly just one shot. So Katarina can take over a game, can win a team fight by herself if you are really that good. So I do believe that Katarina is a pretty good ban in the current patch. Now for ADCs, I'm actually cheating a little bit because as I said, mid lane actually has a lot of bans. We've covered Akali and Katarina for the main bans. I covered Zed, Fizz, and Ziggs for our honorable mentions, but on the AD carry side of things, I'm actually going to put Akshan in there. Akshan actually is mainly a mid laner, and I do play him ADC, but his best role is mid. So I'm kind of cheating a bit because I don't feel a lot of AD carries are worth banning personally, so I'm sort of cheating a bit, putting Akshan into that AD carry category. So I do believe Akshan is worth banning. Now, Akshan, as I've just recently made a guide on Akshan, so you guys can check that out if you guys want to. But I don't believe Akshan is like OP, but I do believe Akshan is a pretty good pick at the moment. Maybe high A, low S tier kind of pick for like the mid lane, and I do believe he is good because with his new crit scaling on his ult, and especially his E, when you go for the E max and when you just deal a lot of damage. And the only real problem with Akshan, of course, is that if your main point of damage is your E, you're gonna have to just dive in, so he's not really very safe. But you know, given the right circumstances, if he snowballs, he's gonna destroy you with his E, get another reset, and destroy everybody else. And on top of that, he can revive his allies. So I really don't want to run into a match where there is an Akshan late game who is like maybe not even fed, but just doing alright, and then he just wins his team the game by like not dying, and then he revives like 2 to 3 people of his team, which has happened to me a number of times before. And then because of that, you just lose the game just simply because he has just revived like multiple people on his team, and your team has like a 60-second death timer. There's nothing you can do about it, so you're just gone. Now the other ADC that I would ban if you were to ban an ADC is Kai'Sa. Now Kai'Sa is without a shadow of a doubt the best ADC at the moment. As you guys can see in the background, as I'm talking about Kai'Sa, I'm in the midst of getting myself a pentakill. Really this was not timed, but it came in right at the moment I was about to discuss Kai'Sa. I think Kai'Sa is really worth banning, because if you really want to ban an ADC, you should ban Kai'Sa. She has Very good single target damage, very good team fight as well with the Runan's Hurricane. You know, she just has everything, very good mobility with her ultimate invisibility on her E. You know, she just has pretty much everything. So she's pretty much just the best ADC. I'm sure everybody pretty much agrees on that. So if you were to ban ADC, just ban Kai'Sa. She's just simply the best. Now we're gonna move on to supports. Now, we have sort of a pseudo ADC meta at the moment. So my main pick for support is actually Lulu. So Lulu pretty much just makes any support better. She just buffs up any single, any single AD carry better. So if you have like Kai'Sa on your team, you have a Lulu. The Lulu is just gonna buff the Kai'Sa to the moon. Same goes with a Vayne on your team, a Jinx on your team. You know, anybody, a Ezreal on your team, a Xayah on your team, anybody. Lulu's just gonna buff them, make them way better. So it's not really that Lulu is really that good. It's just that she makes her carry so much harder to kill, and you know it pretty much makes the game very hard to play for the enemy team. I hate playing against Lulu's because she makes like everybody so hard to kill. So I think she is actually worth a ban. Now, if I were to ban another support, I would pick Thresh. Now, Thresh is mainly for his utility. He has, you know, a stun, a lot of catch potential with his hook, his play, and all that. A lot of utility with his lantern, which can be a shield. It can be a tool to get your overextended teammates out, or it could be a tool just for your teammates to join the fight. You know, so much utility there. His play interrupts a lot of abilities, can catch out enemies, and his bugs also with the slow can stop chasing enemies, can trap enemies who you engage upon. So there really is so many ways that Thresh is useful. So Thresh overall I think is a really good ban, really warranted. And with that, we've actually covered all the top 10 bans in all 2 per role. Obviously this is just in order of role, it's not in the order which you should ban. So it's not like Gragas is the top ban and Thresh is the least bannable. In fact, if I were to choose one person that's least bannable for me personally out of these 10 picks, I would personally say it's Kai'Sa, because I think Kai'Sa is really good, but I don't think she's completely obnoxious, and I would rather ban the other 9. Personally, my personal top bans is actually Akali, as I've mentioned, and if someone else banned Akali already, I'll ban Lee Sin. So anyways, with that, guys, we reached the end of the video. So as usual, you guys can take a look at the stats for this game where we won without a jungler and a triple ADC team comp. Thank you guys for watching the video, and goodbye.